the impossible defiance. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floors. 700 species from across the known universe filled the floating observation platforms that spiraled upward into the domed ceiling. The chamber had witnessed countless moments of galactic significance over its 10,000-year history, but nothing quite like what was happening now. High Chancellor Vormak stood at the central podium, his 4 arms spread wide in a gesture that signaled both authority and confusion. The Chancellor was a Threxian, a species known for their diplomatic prowess and their ability to negotiate even the most complicated disputes. His silver skin reflected the ambient light as he struggled to maintain composure before the assembled representatives. The human ambassador had just spoken a single word that echoed through the massive chamber with the force of a physical blow. No, such a simple word. Such an impossible response. In the entire recorded history of the Galactic Federation, spanning countless millennia and involving thousands of civilizations, no species had ever responded to a Federation mandate with outright refusal. Until today, Ambassador James Rivera stood perfectly still on the speaking platform far below the observation decks. He was a tall man by human standards, with gray hair at his temples and wearing a simple black suit that looked almost primitive compared to the elaborate garments and technological enhancements worn by other delegates. His hands rested calmly at his sides. His expression revealed nothing. The silence stretched for nearly a full minute before the chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives from dozens of worlds began shouting simultaneously. The translation system struggled to keep pace with the flood of angry voices, creating a cacophony of overlapping languages that threatened to overwhelm the acoustic dampeners. Chancellor Vormak raised his primary arms, calling for order. The noise gradually subsided, though waves of shocked whispers continued to ripple through the assembly. The Chancellor's voice boomed through the speaker system, amplified to reach every corner of the vast space. "Ambassador Rivera," Vormak said slowly, as if speaking to someone who might not fully understand Galactic Standard language. "Perhaps there has been a translation error. The Federation Council has issued a clear directive. Humanity must cease all unauthorized expansion into the Outer Reach territories, submit to mandatory technology inspections, and accept Federation oversight of all military development. These are not requests. These are requirements for continued membership in galactic society." James Rivera looked up at the Chancellor without any visible emotion. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but somehow carried to every listening being in the chamber. "There was no translation error, High Chancellor. My government's position is clear and unchanged. We decline your requirements." A Klendari representative, whose species resembled enormous crystalline spiders, clicked forward on its platform. "This is insanity. Does humanity not understand what it means to defy the Federation? You are a young species. You have been part of galactic civilization for barely 60 years. You cannot simply refuse." Rivera turned slightly to face the speaker. "We can refuse. We are refusing. The territories in question were unclaimed and uninhabited when we began settlement. We followed all established protocols for frontier development. Our technology is our own, developed through our own research, and we have no obligation to submit it for inspection. And our military exists solely for the defense of human worlds and citizens." Admiral Korseth of the Federation Defense Fleet rose from his command platform. The massive Krogarian warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, his armored carapace bearing the scars of 100 battles. "You speak of protocols and rights as if you have any power to enforce them. Humanity controls 17 systems. The Federation encompasses 40,000. Your entire fleet consists of perhaps 500 vessels. The Federation commands over 10 million. Do you truly believe you can stand against us?" For the first time, Rivera smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Admiral Korseth, I notice you speak of what you command, not what you can bring to bear. Interesting distinction." The Admiral's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Are you suggesting the Federation would hesitate to enforce its mandates?" "I'm suggesting that the Federation has never needed to enforce its mandates against a species that was genuinely prepared to resist. Every civilization you've absorbed over the past 10 millennia either surrendered immediately or fought brief, token resistance before accepting terms. You've never faced true opposition. Chancellor Vormak's skin shifted to a darker silver, a sign of agitation in his species. Ambassador Rivera, you are being deliberately provocative. Let me speak plainly. If humanity does not comply with Federation requirements within 30 standard days, we will consider it an act of rebellion. The consequences will be severe. Rivera nodded slowly. I understand completely, High Chancellor, and my government understands as well. Our answer remains no. The chamber erupted again, but this time the anger was mixed with something else. Fear. Several of the older species representatives had begun to recognize something disturbing in the human ambassador's demeanor. He was not defiant in the way of a desperate civilization making a final stand. He was calm, assured, almost expectant. Counselor Zalera of the Vinthran Collective, one of the oldest and most respected members of the Federation, activated her communication channel. Her voice cut through the chaos with the weight of 900 years of experience. Ambassador Rivera, I have studied the patterns of galactic history for longer than your species has had spaceflight. What you are doing has only one possible outcome. The Federation will move against your worlds. Your people will suffer. Millions will die. In the end, humanity will submit as every species before you has submitted. Why condemn your people to this fate? Rivera looked directly at the ancient counselor. Counselor Zalera, with all respect for your years and wisdom, you are making a critical assumption. You assume that the outcome you describe is inevitable. My government disagrees. On what basis? Zalera demanded. Your technology is inferior. Your numbers are insignificant. You have no allies of consequence. What possible advantage do you believe you possess? The human ambassador was silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, the advantage of being underestimated. Before anyone could respond to this cryptic statement, Rivera touched a control on his wrist device. I have transmitted a data packet to all Federation representatives. It contains humanity's formal response to your ultimatum, along with relevant legal precedents and historical documentation supporting our position. I encourage you to review it carefully. Chancellor Vormak accessed the transmission. His primary eyes widened as he scanned the contents. This document cites 17 different Federation laws that would support your territorial claims. How did we know about obscure legal codes that most Federation members have forgotten exist? Rivera finished. We read them. All of them. Every law, every precedent, every treaty signed in the past 10,000 years. We are very thorough, High Chancellor. Admiral Corseth laughed harshly. Legal arguments will not save you when my fleets arrive at your borders. Perhaps not, Rivera agreed. But they establish something important. When historians look back at what happens next, they will see clearly that humanity was legally and morally justified in every action we take. That matters to us. It will not matter when your cities burn, the Admiral growled. Rivera's expression hardened. Admiral, I need you to understand something crucial. My government sent me here not to negotiate, not to plead, and not to surrender. They sent me to deliver a warning. What you are about to attempt has been tried before by others. None of them succeeded. None of them even came close. What are you talking about? Demanded a dozen voices simultaneously. The human ambassador looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes or sensory organs of representative after representative. You believe you know humanity because we have traded with you, shared meals with you, attended your councils for 60 years. You believe you understand our capabilities because you have seen our ships and our technology. You believe you have measured our worth. He paused, and when he continued, his voice carried a weight that silenced even the most skeptical listeners. You are wrong. Everything you have seen has been carefully calibrated to give you a specific impression. We wanted you to see us as eager students of galactic civilization, friendly but naive, technologically competent but not threatening. We wanted you to believe we were exactly what we appeared to be. Chancellor Vormak's skin had gone nearly black with agitation. Are you confessing to deliberate deception? I'm confessing to being human, Rivera replied. We are a species that has survived ice ages, plagues, wars that consumed entire continents, and our own worst impulses. We reached our own moon using computers less powerful than the device on my wrist. We split the atom before we fully understood what we were doing. We are builders and destroyers, dreamers and pragmatists. We are capable of remarkable kindness and terrible violence, often in the same moment. He looked directly at Admiral Corsath. And we are very, very good at preparing for scenarios we hope never occur. The Admiral's armored plates rattled with suppressed rage. Enough of this theater. High Chancellor, I request permission to mobilize the second battle group. Let humanity face the consequences of their arrogance. Counselor Zalera raised a hand. Wait, Ambassador Rivera, answer me honestly. Does humanity truly believe it can defeat the entire Galactic Federation in open conflict? Rivera shook his head slowly. That's the wrong question, Counselor. Then what is the right question? The right question is whether the Galactic Federation can afford to find out what happens if you try. The silence that followed was profound. Slowly, carefully, Ambassador James Rivera gathered his materials and prepared to leave the speaking platform. Before he departed, he turned back to address the assembly one final time. In 30 days, your deadline will expire. I will return here to receive your decision. I genuinely hope that wisdom prevails, that cooler heads recognize the path you are considering leads nowhere good for anyone. But if the Federation chooses conflict, know this, humanity will not surrender, we will not submit, and we will not yield. Not now, not ever. We would rather face extinction on our own terms than accept subjugation on yours. He began walking toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. And Ambassador, Chancellor Vormak called after him, what should we make of your confidence? What gives humanity such certainty? James Rivera stopped and looked back over his shoulder. A slight smile played at the corner of his mouth. High Chancellor, 60 years ago, when humanity first made contact with the Federation, we made a decision. We could either trust in your benevolence and goodwill, or we could prepare for the day you revealed your true nature. We chose the latter. Everything since then has been preparation, training, research, development, 60 years of dedicated work by billions of humans focused on a single goal. Which is? Vormak asked quietly, making sure that if this day ever came, we would be ready. Rivera left the chamber. Behind him, 700 species sat in stunned silence, each representative beginning to understand that something fundamental had changed in the galactic order. For 10,000 years, the Federation had been the ultimate power in known space. Their word had been law. Their might had been unquestionable. Now, for the first time in recorded history, someone had looked at that power and said simply, no. And the truly terrifying part was that the humans seemed to mean it. The hidden truth. The Federation War Council convened in a secure facility deep beneath the surface of Cormex Prime, the administrative heart of galactic government. The chamber was smaller than the Grand Assembly Hall, but no less impressive, with holographic displays covering every wall and tactical data streaming through the air like luminous rivers. Admiral Corsath stood at the center of the room, surrounded by his senior staff and intelligence officers. Floating before him was a three-dimensional representation of human-controlled space, 17 systems marked in red against the vast blue expanse of Federation territory. Intelligence assessment. The Admiral commanded. Commander Threx, a methodical Quilarian analyst known for his thorough approach to military planning, activated a series of data streams. Admiral, we have completed comprehensive scans of all human installations, military facilities, and defensive positions. The results are consistent with our previous assessments. Humanity possesses approximately 520 combat-capable vessels, ranging from small patrol craft to what they designate as battlecruisers. Their largest vessel is roughly 40% the mass of our standard destroyers. Weapons capabilities? Corsath asked. Primarily kinetic projectiles and directed energy systems. Effective, but nothing we haven't encountered before. Their missile technology is somewhat advanced, showing creative engineering, but our point defense systems should handle them without difficulty. No evidence of exotic weapons or shield-penetrating capabilities. Admiral Corsath studied the display with narrowed eyes. So by every measurable standard, humanity poses no significant military threat to Federation forces. Correct, sir. A single battle group should be more than sufficient to enforce compliance. 2 would guarantee absolute success. The Admiral's claws drummed against the tactical console. Something felt wrong. Ambassador Rivera's confidence had not been the bravado of a doomed civilization making empty threats. It had been genuine certainty. What about their defensive installations? Standard orbital platforms around major population centers. Energy shields, point defense networks, nothing exceptional. They do have an unusually dense sensor grid throughout their territory, but that's likely just paranoia rather than any real defensive advantage. And their ground forces? Commander Threx pulled up another dataset. Approximately 2 billion individuals under arms across all 17 systems. Well trained by the standards of a developing military power. They conduct regular exercises and maintain high readiness levels. But again, nothing that would concern a Federation assault force equipped with standard armaments. Corsath turned to face his senior intelligence officer, a Mindarin telepath named Kessa whose species excelled at psychological analysis. Your assessment of Ambassador Rivera's behavior? Kessa's tentacles undulated thoughtfully. Admiral, I monitored the ambassador throughout the assembly proceedings. His emotional state was remarkably controlled, but I detected no signs of deception, no hidden fear, no desperation. If he was bluffing, it was the most convincing performance I have witnessed in 3 centuries of service. Could he simply be delusional, suffering from some kind of species-wide misunderstanding of military realities? Possible but unlikely. Humans have proven themselves quite rational in all previous interactions. Their mathematical capabilities are exceptional. They understand force ratios and tactical principles. Rivera knows exactly what humanity faces. Admiral Corsath was about to respond when an alert chimed through the war room. A priority transmission from deep space monitoring stations. Commander Threx accessed the data, and his scaled face shifted through several shades of concern. Admiral, we're receiving reports from observer ships stationed near human space. Multiple sensor contacts. It appears humanity is conducting some kind of fleet exercise. Show me. The central display shifted to show real-time data from Federation monitoring vessels. Human ships were indeed moving, but not in the defensive postures one would expect from a civilization about to be attacked. Instead, they were departing. They're leaving their systems, Corsath observed with confusion. Moving into deep space in organized formations. What are they doing? Unknown, sir. Wait, we're receiving similar reports from other sectors. Threx pulled up additional data streams. Admiral, human vessels are leaving all 17 systems simultaneously. They're heading into the outer regions, beyond the frontier territories. Corsath felt a cold sensation forming in his chest. How many ships? All of them, sir. Every combat-capable vessel humanity possesses is now moving away from their home worlds. The implications hit everyone in the war room at the same moment. They're abandoning their planets, breathed Commander Threx. But why? What possible strategic advantage? It's not an advantage, Kessa the telepath said quietly. It's a statement. They're telling us that even if we occupy every human world, we won't have won anything that matters. Admiral Corsath stared at the display, watching hundreds of red dots moving away from the systems they were supposed to defend. This was wrong. Everything about this situation was wrong. No species behaved this way. It violated every principle of territorial defense. Get me Ambassador Rivera, the Admiral ordered. Now. Several minutes later, the human ambassador appeared on the communication screen. He was no longer in the formal chambers of the Federation, but in what appeared to be a simple office. He looked tired but alert. Admiral Corsath, I wondered when you would call. What are you doing, Rivera? Where are your ships going? The ambassador smiled faintly. They're taking up positions, Admiral. Getting ready. Ready for what? You're leaving your worlds defenseless. Are we? Rivera leaned back in his chair. Admiral, let me tell you a story about humanity. About 200 years ago, on Earth, there was a military commander named Sherman. He understood something that many of his contemporaries did not. He understood that, in modern warfare, territory means nothing. Infrastructure means nothing. The only thing that matters is the will to fight and the capacity to project force. Korsitha's expression darkened. What does ancient Earth history have to do with the current situation? Everything, Rivera replied. You see, the Federation has spent 10,000 years thinking about warfare in very specific terms. You occupy territory. You control resources. You demonstrate overwhelming force until your enemy surrenders. It's worked perfectly for you because every species you've faced has played by those same rules. And humanity won't? Humanity can't, Rivera corrected. We learned something during our own history, Admiral. We learned that when you face an enemy with superior numbers and technology, you don't fight them on their terms. You change the game entirely. The display behind Admiral Korsith suddenly lit up with new contacts. Dozens of them, hundreds, appearing in deep space throughout Federation territory. Commander Threx frantically worked his console, trying to identify the signatures. Admiral, Threx said urgently, we're detecting massive energy buildups. They're not matching any known profile. Wait, the signatures are... They're human ships, sir. But the power outputs are impossible. They're reading at levels 50 times higher than anything we've detected from humanity before. Rivera's smile widened on the screen. I see you're beginning to understand. Would you like me to explain what you're looking at, Admiral? Korsitha's claws dug into his command console. Speak. 60 years ago, when we first encountered the Federation, we realized something important. We realized that you had become complacent. 10,000 years of unchallenged supremacy had made you predictable. You stopped innovating. You stopped preparing for real threats. Why would you need to? Everyone always surrendered. The human ambassador stood, and the camera followed him as he walked to a window showing a star field. So we made a decision. We would join your Federation. We would trade with you, learn from you, smile and nod at your counsels. And while we did all of that, we would prepare. Prepare how? Korsith demanded, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. Every ship you've seen over the past 60 years? Training vessels. Every technology demonstration we've given you? Carefully calculated to show just enough capability to be interesting but not threatening. Every research station you've monitored? Built to be monitored, to show you exactly what we wanted you to see. Rivera turned back to face the camera directly. The real research was happening in the deep space regions you thought were uninhabited. The real construction yards were hidden in asteroid fields and planetary rings where your sensors couldn't reach. The real fleet, Admiral, is what you're detecting now. And it's been ready for this moment for 20 years. Commander Threck's voice was shaking slightly as he reported. Admiral, the number of contacts is still increasing. We're now reading over 2,000 vessels with power signatures exceeding anything in Federation service. Sir, if these readings are accurate... They're accurate, Rivera interrupted calmly. Would you like to know what you're really facing, Admiral Korsith? Would you like to understand what humanity has built while you were watching us and thinking we were primitive newcomers to galactic civilization? Korsith could only nod, his mind reeling from the implications. We didn't just build ships, Admiral. We revolutionized our understanding of physics. We developed quantum fold drives that make your hyperspace technology look like children's toys. We created weapon systems based on principles your scientists haven't even theorized yet. We built defensive technologies that render conventional attacks meaningless. And we did all of this while you watched and believed you knew exactly what we were capable of. The display showed the human vessels beginning to move in perfect coordination, executing maneuvers that should have been impossible for ships of their apparent size and power output. But the technology isn't even the most important part, Rivera continued. The most important part is strategic positioning. You see, while you were watching our 17 visible systems, we were building infrastructure throughout the unclaimed regions. Bases, supply depots, manufacturing facilities, all hidden in places you never thought to look because you assumed we didn't have the capability. Admiral Corsath found his voice. You planned this. All of it. From the very beginning. Not from the beginning, Rivera admitted. For the first few years, we genuinely hoped the Federation would be different from what our history taught us to expect. We hoped we could be true partners in galactic civilization. But gradually we realized the truth. The Federation doesn't want partners. It wants subjects. So yes, for the past 50 years, we have been planning for this exact scenario. Commander Threx looked up from his console with an expression of growing horror. Admiral, I'm analyzing the positioning of human forces. They're not arranged defensively. They're surrounding every major Federation military installation simultaneously. They have our fleet yards, our supply bases, our command centers all under observation. If they attack, we're not going to attack, Rivera said calmly. Not unless you force us to. That's what I came here to tell you, Admiral. You wanted to know what gives humanity such confidence? This is the answer. We have spent 60 years preparing for the day the Federation would try to force us into submission. We are ready. The question is whether you're ready to pay the price of finding out just how ready we are. Admiral Corsath stared at the tactical display, watching human ships holding positions around critical Federation assets across multiple sectors. The strategic implications were staggering. Humanity could strike any target in Federation space within minutes. They had achieved a level of force projection that the Federation military had considered theoretically impossible. You're saying that if we attack your 17 systems, you'll retaliate against Federation territory? I'm saying that if you attack our systems, you'll occupy empty worlds while your own infrastructure crumbles. Your choice, Admiral. You can leave us alone and continue ruling your 40,000 systems in peace. Or you can try to add 17 more to your collection and risk losing everything you already have. Kessa the telepath spoke up, her voice filled with something approaching admiration. Ambassador Rivera, I must ask, how many humans know about this? About the real scope of your preparations? Rivera smiled. Every single one of us, Kessa. That's another thing you misunderstood about humanity. We are very good at keeping secrets when our survival depends on it. Billions of humans working together for decades, and not one word leaked to Federation intelligence. We learned that skill in our own history when our survival depended on resistance against impossible odds. The communication screen flickered as Chancellor Vormak's image appeared beside Rivera's. The High Chancellor looked like he had aged years in the past few hours. Ambassador Rivera, Vormak said quietly, I have been reviewing the data our sensors are collecting. If your capabilities are even half of what they appear to be, then the Federation has made a terrible miscalculation. Yes, High Chancellor, you have. What do you want? What is humanity's price for not using these weapons? Rivera's expression softened slightly. We want exactly what we've always wanted. To be left alone to develop our civilization in peace. To maintain our sovereignty and independence. To be treated as equals, not subjects. Give us that, and we have no reason for conflict. Chancellor Vormak was silent for a long moment. And if the Federation agrees to these terms? What guarantee do we have that humanity won't use its newfound power to threaten others? You have our word, Rivera said simply. Which, given that we kept our preparations secret for 60 years while maintaining friendly relations, should mean something. We don't want to conquer anyone, High Chancellor. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to be free. Admiral Corsath made a decision. He had fought for the Federation for 200 years. He knew when a battle could be won and when it would only lead to destruction. High Chancellor, I recommend we accept Ambassador Rivera's terms. The strategic situation has changed fundamentally. Attempting to enforce our original ultimatum would likely result in catastrophic losses. Vormak nodded slowly. I concur. Ambassador Rivera, I will bring your terms before the full council for ratification. I expect they will be accepted. The Federation has no wish for unnecessary conflict. Neither do we, Rivera replied, which is why we prepared so thoroughly to avoid it. The transmission ended. Admiral Corsath stood in silence, staring at the tactical display showing human ships maintaining perfect formations throughout Federation space. Commander Threx approached carefully. "Admiral, what just happened?" Korsitha's laugh was bitter. "We just learned the most expensive lesson in Federation history, Commander. We learned that appearances can be deceiving. We learned that underestimating a young species can be fatal. And most importantly, we learned that humanity has been playing a much longer game than we ever imagined." 3 weeks later, Ambassador James Rivera stood once again before the Galactic Federation Assembly. This time, the chamber was quiet, respectful. 700 species watched as Chancellor Vormak officially recognized human sovereignty over their territories and acknowledged humanity as a fully independent civilization, not subject to Federation oversight. As Rivera departed the chamber for the final time, Counselor Zalera approached him privately. "Ambassador, I must know, did humanity really build all of those ships and facilities in secret? Or was it an elaborate bluff supported by false sensor readings?" Rivera smiled but said nothing. He simply walked away, leaving the ancient counselor to wonder. Some questions, he had decided, were better left unanswered. Let the Federation believe what they wanted to believe. Let them spend the next century trying to verify what was real and what might have been elaborate theater. The truth was somewhere in between, but humanity had learned long ago that in galactic politics, as in poker, you don't show your cards even after the game is over. Because there's always another game coming. And humanity intended to be ready for that one too. That's the end of our story. If you loved seeing humanity outsmart the galactic powers, smash that like button and share this video with fellow sci-fi fans. Subscribe for more amazing HFY stories where humans show the galaxy what we're made of. What story should we tell next? Let us know in the comments below.